Thank you for your interest in the Henry County Chamber of Commerce's Candidate Conversation Series. We have reached out to candidates in contested races throughout Henry County, Georgia, from congressional to General Assembly to county. While this election cycle is unusual due to the COVID pandemic, we appreciate those candidates who have taken the time to speak with us about those interests important to Henry County residents and employers. Remember, it's your voice, it's your vote. Together, we can continue to make Henry County a great place to live, work, and visit. Please vote.
All right. Well, Clint, thank you very much for joining us today. I also appreciate your interest in public service and that. But before we begin the conversation, what are about your priorities and experience? But tell us a little bit about your background.
Well, so I'm in the real estate business now. I have a local real estate company. Our main office is in Locust Grove. We also have an office in the city of Jackson and one out at Jackson Lake. We've grown over the last few years. Fortunately, we've grown to about 69 agents in those three offices. So very thankful for that. We've got a great group of people. But before I got into the family real estate business, I had a career in law enforcement. So I started with the Clayton County Sheriff's Office in 1996, and then went on to serve most of my time with the Henry County Police Department. I was there for 9 years as a patrolman and a detective and a field training officer. So I have a pretty varied background, a little more diverse background than a lot of people do. I've kind of got the law enforcement side, so the side that really would be involved in making the laws. I've had to enforce those laws, and that's a nice switch. And then from a business standpoint, having operated, started, and grown my own small business, I know some of the challenges and hopefully solutions that can help others in business.
It certainly sounds like that, and I look forward to working with you. I wasn't aware of your entire background, and so I'm very impressed because it all falls within economic development. Whether or not we're looking to maintain business, grow businesses, recruit the businesses, one of the things that they look at is what does the economy look like, and you with the real estate background obviously know that. You know the ins and outs of that, but also as a public servant within the police departments, that often comes up. They want to know what your crime looks like and everything. And we're fortunate in Henry County that we've been blessed in 2020 as much as we've struggled and fought with COVID and some of the other things that came about because of COVID. When we look at our tax dollars and our visitors to the county and that, we're down, but we're not down as much as we really thought we'd be in the first quarter. And so this county really is in a great place to be. And I appreciate, as we have these conversations with all the candidates coming up, the backgrounds and the diversity that you all bring. That being said, Henry County Chamber, for about 50 years or so now, we've acted as that voice of business for our community, and we're committed to ensuring that the economy is strong, that the climate for business is well regulated and beneficial for what we need to get done in order to serve both the businesses, the employers, as well as the residents of Henry County. What then are, with your background, you've got a great diversity there. What are your top 3 priorities for especially small businesses, but business in general in Henry County?
I think one of the things, and this kind of came up in our preamble, I guess, is, we are blessed in Henry County to have growth. Economic development, economic growth is the lifeblood of a community. The saying goes that if something's not growing, it's dying.
That's right.
At the same time, with those blessings come along challenges. And one of those is traffic. Obviously, you can go anywhere around here and people talk about Henry County. One of the things that comes up is the traffic. From a state legislature standpoint, I know that the Bethlehem Road interchange is something that's been talked about since I was with the police department back in the late 90s, early 2000s. So I believe we're closer to get that to fruition. That's something that I'm very committed to making sure happens. And then the truck lanes that are supposed to be coming possibly from Macon up to exit 216 to help alleviate some of this truck traffic. Folks complain about the trucks a lot, but they are a necessity. they move the nation's freight and all the stuff that we want to buy online, just like I do, and I'm sure you do too. All of that has to go somewhere. It has to be stored somewhere. It has to be warehoused somewhere, and it has to be delivered somewhere. So those trucks are necessary. I think we just need to really work on making sure we figure out the best way to get that traffic moving throughout the county and open up some new avenues for traffic, and really infrastructure in general. Whether that's the roads, maybe rail, and the internet. In Henry County, internet is not a big a problem for most places as it is in some of the other counties in the district. Southwestern Newton County, northern Butts County, where I live out by Jackson Lake. Our lake office out at Stark Road operates off of a Verizon hotspot. I can't get internet at the office, and so rural broadband. I was telling somebody the other day, I think the internet is one of the essential public utilities now, right along with water and electricity. In this age, if you don't have it, you are really at a severe disadvantage, especially for kids in school and and folks trying to work from home. It's a necessity now.
It is. I think that again, what we've dealing with COVID is one thing, but the pieces that we've learned as a result of it. And I think that the broadband infrastructure is definitely one of those things that many of us knew was an issue and a concern. But until we had kids in school that couldn't get access,
Right.
There's that equity issue. And I think the other piece, and not that, it is a conversation that we need to have around for our employers in that, but another one that has been out there, but we haven't really talked about is childcare.
Mhm.
And, what that's done for families without access to childcare, and they don't have school, they're being home, they're being taught at home or whatever, how that's impacted our employers, because now they can't work to that 100% level that they would be if they had all their employees on base. So I think that, we're going to see a lot of conversations come out about a number of different things that have been there, but for whatever reason, we just weren't aware of, or we weren't actively pursuing. So I absolutely agree. And I'll tell you, if you can fix that transportation issue, you'll be my hero, because when I started here about 18 months ago, when I asked what I'd have to do to be successful, I had a number of people tell me that I had to fix the transportation issue. So, if you'll help me with that, I'd appreciate that.
Well, I'll do everything I can. I don't know that I can fix it, but I think if we get enough of us pulling in the same direction, working on the problem, I think we can make some headway. It's always going to be. I remember when I first came to work in Henry County in '97, every one of the interchanges was a 2-lane road. And since then, they've all been expanded and grown, and it was always like the growth was the expansion of the infrastructure was happening right behind the growth, a little bit too late, and that's a bit of the catch-22, because if you put in the infrastructure before it's needed, people are going to you're going to face onslaught of hey, you're spending money for something you don't need. Yeah. If you wait until you do need it, then it's too late, because you can't get it in as fast as the growth comes. So. That's where we are now. But I think there's a lot of things that have been planned, and a lot of things that are being talked about that can really help with that. And from the people that I talk to, I think everybody's committed in seeing a solution come to that. So I think we can make it happen.
I think so. I think the irony of it is that it was I-75 that was the impetus for the success and the growth of Henry County. Mm-hmm. And because of where we're at with that as our main thoroughfare, it's basically our main street. You notice everybody goes toward that, gets on I-75 and goes north or south if they've got to, if they've got to get to another exit. But because of that, now we see some of that congestion in that. And I think that there are some positive projects out there. I think that there's some great ideas, and I think we will see some positive from that within the next, I'd say probably 5 to 10 years, depending on where those different projects are in planning. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Let's talk a little bit about, we talked about the logistics and that, and let's talk about that from an economic development standpoint, because it is key. It's key with, as I talk to the Development Authority and we look at what benefit they bring to the community, not just jobs, but they also reduce our taxes. And so how can we better plan maybe what it is we want to do around the development, the economic development within our county? And you know, we do, one of the things I love about Henry County are the trees and the green spaces and that. And so we don't want to let it all go. But how can we, is there a mix that we find from residential and commercial that you believe is going to be what makes us successful in this region? And I realize your district is more than Henry. I'm going to talk about Henry, but I'll let you talk about the rest of the counties because I'm not as familiar with them. But what about some of those mixes that you see benefit businesses and the residents of the county?
Yeah, you know, I think it really goes hand in hand, and I'll give you an example. So, and I neglected to mention this when I was talking about my background. I live in Butts County, so that's where I've done some of my public service down there too. I spent 11 years on the Butts County Planning and Zoning Board. And then a couple of years ago, I moved over to the Butts County Development Authority, which I'm a member of now. So, and actually the executive director of our development authority was previously the director of the Henry County Development Authority. So, you know, when Bob was up here, there's a lot of things that he did. And really the one thing we talk about a lot in Butts County is kind of where we are now is where Henry County was years ago. When I talk to people, a lot of people say, you know, we don't want warehouses and we're tired of seeing warehouses. And I get that. And to some degree I do too. It does have an effect. But like I said earlier, they are a necessity. Our world has changed. Our way of shopping and buying goods and things have changed. And so you're going to see a lot of logistics. That's, and for whatever reason, the south side of Atlanta is where a lot of that is located. I'd love to have more white collar jobs down here like they do on the north side, but it just, you know, things tend to water seeks its own level. Things seem to go where they're going to go. When they find a place, that's where it's going to go. Our niche seems to be logistics because we do have the airports on the south side of Atlanta. You know, we've got 285, we've got 75, and then farther down, you've got 475 and 16 that goes to, or 475 goes around Macon, and then 16, which goes from Macon down to Savannah, you know, where the port is. And so a lot of that is led to the south side being looked at as a logistics hub. I do want to try to see a mix of that mixed with some good advanced manufacturing. I think those jobs are, you know, sometimes a little bit better paying and a little bit more specialized. So, you know, we are going to see warehouses, but I do like a mix of advanced manufacturing. And then you have to have a good mix of residential. It's one thing I talk with friends of mine about now. You know, they say, well, you know, we want these kind of houses, and I'm in favor of all kind of houses, obviously. But, you know, you have to have a good mix because you have to have affordable housing. You have to have, you know, for these jobs that are going to be here, you have to have houses that these folks can afford to live in. And if you want to have the battle we've had in years for years in Butts County has been, you know, people wanted to have some shopping and retail there, but without the houses, the shop is not going to come because there's nobody living there to shop at those places, you know. And so again, you've got to have the rooftops essentially. So you got to have housing to either supply homes for your workers and your workforce. And that's a huge thing with economic developers now, is making sure there's a good trained workforce in the community. And I know that my predecessor, Representative Welch, and Senator Strickland have worked really, really hard with Southern Crescent and having the second building up here in the Henry County campus. And I think that's going to pay huge dividends for the community down the road because, you know, they're training the folks for the jobs of the future. It's not, you know, I'm a finance guy, even though I have an MBA in finance from Mercer, as a matter of fact. And I don't use it into my job. I can do my job without it. You know, I won't say that it's not beneficial. The education, I'm a big proponent of education, but, you know, I don't use it every day. But what folks, the skills that they're learning now for these 21st century jobs, you know, a lot of your maintenance technicians, you know, that with this computerized numerical controlled machines, a lot of these warehouses and these delivery systems and things, you have to have a very specific background and training in that, and the technical schools are doing a great job of preparing folks for those.
I appreciate that because that's another part that you know, we are very strong and focused on is education attainment and workforce development. And I think you and I growing up, that was about the time where the push was everybody needs to go to college. And I think, we know better now. We know not everybody's meant for college, and maybe not right away. Maybe, they talk about a gap year, maybe it's 5 years, but some of the programs I've worked on that I'd love to bring down are, I've got somebody that I used to have talk to the classes all the time, and he graduated from high school and got a job on the floor in manufacturing, and that company paid for him all the way up through his doctorate. So now he's got his doctorate without the debt. I wish, I could have said that. But, sometimes the timing's just not right. And you don't even, depending on what your experiences are. And so we really want to get with the school system, and it's a great school system, but work with them on work-based opportunities so kids can understand what's out there.
Yeah. There's such a shortage now too of trained workers in things like, plumbers, pipe fitters, welders. If you know how to weld now, you can pretty much name your price.
That's right.
And from my standpoint in the real estate and construction industry, trying to find trained plumbers and electricians and HVAC workers and things, there's just not enough of them out there, and they're really good quality jobs, good paying jobs. And a lot of folks, you're right. A lot of folks were made to go to college. They really didn't want to go to college. I actually went for a couple of years and then got my associate's degree and decided to go work for a builder for John Whelan Homes. Eventually went back and finished my degree and then went on and got my master's degree. But I think you're right. We don't need to push everybody. You don't have to go get a 4-year degree to attain a really good job, have really good employment, and provide a really nice life for yourself and your family. That's not the route everybody has to go. In fact, it's not the route everybody needs to go, because we need folks that can do other things. We need a diversity in our workforce.
No, I absolutely agree. I appreciate that. I think that's also part of that mindset, I guess, where I was going when I started this. It's that mindset we have around manufacturing. And that it's that dirty, dark, dingy place that it is. And there's so much now that is beyond that. I think you'd be hard pressed now to find that dirty, dark, dingy place. I've been through Caterpillar plants and it's not that anymore. But it is, as you said, it's technology, and they'd rather have somebody that's out of college or out of high school and that has the dexterity from the video games to operate those than somebody who's afraid to touch the machines. And so I think that there's such a good mix out there, and Henry County and your district is blessed with those opportunities. And so I appreciate your interest in serving in that. One quick question I have, what are some of your favorite places around the county, around the district? I'm going to say the district. I know your office, you've got offices here and then in the other counties. So what are some of your favorite places around the district?
Well, and I know we're talking about Henry County, so I'll really highlight Henry County. Of course, at my core, I've grown up and lived my entire life essentially at Jackson Lake. So that's, and folks from Henry County obviously come enjoy the lake too. That's not a Butts County thing. It's I cover the portion of the lake that's in Butts County and Newton County below 212. So really 2 of the counties in the district or the lake is in there, and a lot of folks have recreation at the lake. That's really a regional attraction. So that's one of my favorite places. Growing up there, I grew up fishing and skiing, so I'm an outdoor kind of guy. I love the Ola area, kind of out past Keys Ferry Road, that piece between Keys Ferry and 212, where you're still kind of out where there are trees and greenery, and down around Old Jackson. The Tussahall Reservoir, when I was at the police department, I watched them building that. And now you go out there and it's just, I remember what it used to be like when you cross the bridge on Peaksville Road before there was a reservoir there. And now you go out there and cross, it's just, it's just beautiful. And that's the thing. Henry County is big enough. It's a large enough county that you really can have a diversity. We talk about places to live, work, and play, raise your family. And then there's an opportunity to do that here. We've got fantastic shopping along the 75 corridor that my wife enjoys more than I do. But you know, but there's nice restaurants. There's we got some folks looking now, some different folks in real estate that have really looked at the attractive downtown area. I'll tell you the square. The square is just outside my district, but we had a thing at Crust and Craft the other night, and went to an event at Kirby G's, and I was trying to make it to Macon Street Tacos today for lunch. Traffic kind of held me up a little bit.
Yeah.
But, the square, the walkability, and just that downtown area where the cool restaurants and Southern Roots, and the nice places you can go visit, go eat dinner, go get ice cream at Scoops, and then slide over to Southern Roots. They have live music. There's just really just such an eclectic feel in the downtown square area that I really enjoy that. It's much different than it used to be back in the 90s when I was up here. So,
well, I appreciate that. It is. It's one of those. It doesn't take you far to find something different to do, and it is one of the blessings that I think we have in Henry County. And you had spoken to diversity, and I think that my hope is that people begin to become more aware of the benefits of that diversity and what is out there and what makes Henry County and your district such a wonderful place to be. That's my wish for them.
Yeah.
I asked you for a half an hour. I don't want to take too much more of your time, but I'm going to ask you a question.
Okay.
And this might be a little tougher. It's not so much about the campaign. It's about you now.
Okay.
In closing, throughout the election cycle and across the country, we've witnessed races that seek to divide the population. It's gone negative. And we believe that at the chamber that's dangerous, and it actually adds more challenges to our community. And so what is one positive thing that you see about your opponent that you can respect about your opponent?
Okay. Well, and I will say this, probably due to COVID and the way it's kind of changed campaigning, I haven't had an opportunity to meet my opponent in person, or even have a conversation with her. Of course, I'm aware of her, and I'm sure she's aware of me, throughout our campaigning and our social media and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
She's young. She seems very passionate, and she's got, she's got an education. I know she got her bachelor's degree, I believe, and I think I saw where she was maybe looking to go back and get a master's degree. And of course, I've done that. So, I'm a big proponent of education. And you're right. I've always been able to, fortunately, I can get along with folks even when we disagree. I tell people all the time, I don't know how we got to the point to where we forgot how to disagree without being disagreeable.
Yeah.
Because whoever you are, there's so much more that you have in common than you have separate. I'm sure the things that I want for my family and my children. I have young children. I have 2 grown sons, and then I have 2 younger children. One, actually, she'll be 7 the day after the election, so we're really going to celebrate. And
good for you.
And then our 3rd son is just turned 8. So, I'm sure what I want for them is very similar to what my opponent wants for her child, and her family. So as a whole, as a society, we all have a lot more that we agree on. And just because you disagree with somebody doesn't mean that you can't get along with them or be friends. I sometimes, not publicly or really where she can hear me, but I do disagree with my wife on occasion. And I love her very much, and I still, I don't disagree. Like I said, I don't do it often where she can really hear me. But that's the thing. We all have different opinions, and I don't want to judge each other based on one differing opinion or another. And it's really hard for me now, especially coming from a law enforcement background. My wife was a firefighter and EMT with the Henry County Fire Department. So, with a public safety background, I got 2 nephews with the sheriff's office in Butts County. It's hard for me to see kind of what's going on in that, because I know a lot of folks in that environment, in that profession, and 99.9% of them are good, hard-working people that just want to provide for their families and serve their community. And I don't like to see anybody stereotyped or lumped into or held accountable for the actions of a very small few, whether it's their profession, their race, their gender, their religion. You know, I really
Yeah.
would like to try to get away from that in general. So I appreciate you asking that question, because I do hope that we can get to the point to where, you know, we can let our differences create debate, true debate, and have real debate and real discourse about topics and issues, without it getting personal and without people making personal attacks. That's my wish. You know, I don't know how soon we might get there, but I'm going to work hard to try to do it. That's the way I'm going to try to keep it.
Well, I appreciate that, and I wish I'd have started with that question, because I think we could have had a much more interesting conversation along the way.
I got time if you got time. If
Well,
you have questions,
definitely, I want to follow up with you. I know you're busy with the campaign and that, but I want to follow up with you. You know, this is one of those struggles that we have. We like to get out and meet the candidates. We like to share their backgrounds and that with the community. And you're right, this COVID, I can't imagine how it affects the campaign, because from our perspective, to educate the community on the candidates and that is one thing, but for you all to get out there and do what a candidate traditionally does and what their campaign usually does, it's got to be a complete monkey wrench. And so I give you credit, I give your opponent credit, I give everybody that's running for office credit. It's got to be a frustrating time, but I want to thank you, Clint. It was a pleasure finally meeting you. You know, again, haven't had a chance to touch base because of all of this, but
yeah,
you know, I wish you the best of luck in the race, and I thank you for your commitment to public service, both as a police officer, but also, you know, your interest in public office. And I hope that we can continue these conversations after November 3rd, and really work together to help. I think we're in alignment, I think, on where we want to see this area go. And so I would really love to have more conversations with you.
I would do. I look forward to it.
Thank you, sir. Best of